think it's interesting, after about 30 years of doing this lark, I still occasionally and arrogantly think that I can nail a master in the same day that I compose, orchestrate, arrange, produce, and mix. And yesterday was no exception to that. I just went, yep, that's definitely absolutely perfect. I definitely don't have snow in my ear, snow blindness, or snow deafness, rather. This is as good as it can possibly get. And of course, I came back today, I was like, just a bunch of little tweaks. I don't know if this video serves any purpose. It is to try and encourage us all to just put that little bit of time in our schedule before we send our final masters to just hear it with fresh ears the next day, because some of these kind of little tweaks are totally obvious. The other thing that I also got, oh, by the way, this is, I did a contextual for this new thing, Orbis, that we've done. The link to that video, which is on the main Spitfire site, is down below. It's a bit salesy. You might want to ignore all of that kind of stuff, but there is some interesting kind of techniques and all that kind of stuff. I'll try and do this very quick video independently of you having knowledge of that one. But basically, I just wanted to take you through how I take it from 99% to 100%, and how that last 1% seems to take about 30% of the time that it takes to get to 99%. There's also some interesting kind of drummy stuff. Okay, so first things first is I'm actually going to just draw in the new trailer. Again, the temp images that I was working with are down below. Let's have a look at that. Another video I'm planning on doing soon is the one where I talk about why I use Pro Tools to host video for some projects and Logic for others. So I've just had a very big tuna sandwich for lunch. So basically, with short form, I tend to use it embedded within Logic, mainly for scrubbing. For long form, I like to use it with multiple cues, multiple reels. I like to use it in Pro Tools, and I'll do a video about that soon. Okay, what am I doing? This really annoys me that if you don't extract the audio, it just embeds it in the movie and you can't get rid of it. It's terribly frustrating. I don't know the reason behind that. Reasoning, rather. So let's do this. Mute that. That actually looks like my track. So they've had my track back. It's a nice way of working. Temped it with a bit of Hans Zimmer, and then I totally ignored that temp, but they had something they could feel, get a sense of pacing and all that kind of stuff. And then I sent them where I got up to yesterday thinking that was the master, and they kind of did a few little edit tweaks here and there. And basically, let's run that down so I can show you where I ended up yesterday, where they ended up yesterday, and then we'll switch out to the latest version, and I'll take you through my list of things that I've done. Okay, so I made 9 notes, which is basically that I felt at the beginning, the very first note, probably the second time round, your brain will make sense of it. But I felt that it was just a bit, its entry was a bit abrupt, so I've done a note to just shape that a little bit. The opening drum kind of comes in before you see the fade up, certainly on certain screens. I think my tip is, if you're going to be not perfectly in sync with something with percussion, particularly if it is something like a fade up, like with timing, it's better to be behind the beat than ahead of the beat. So I think it's better always to be behind the image than ahead of it. I think what happens is that the brain registers the change of image and hears something that's associated with that, and it kind of puts them together. It doesn't work the other way around. I think I am totally making that up. Okay, next bit. There's a little bit in this sound here. It's only a couple of dBs of a notch of something, there's something just slightly unattractive about that. I felt this whole section here, it could go a little bit more urban, so I just want to eke that out a little bit more. I felt that this, when I was working on it yesterday, this drop here, thought it was kind of quite cool because it like went from in your face to boom, like that. But I just feel actually you come to it with fresh ears, it just feels kind of underwhelming. Okay, then also this crescendo. In the orchestra isn't really a crescendo. And just going back to my old advertising days of doing adverts and stuff, the client always hated it if, you had this sense of just going down, feeling being a bit miserable at the end. So I'm just going to make a lot more of that crescendo orchestra, which is the most demanding bit. Possibly a little bang at the end there for the entry of that last kind of pack shot image. Okay, so I've done all of those notes along with some other tweaks and some interesting ideas. So I'm just going to pull that up, Orbis trailer version 2. Right, so let's just go through the list. The first was the very first entry of the single note. And you'll see here, I've just put a little ease in. So let's have a listen to that. Just glides it in that much better. Then we've got our drum. So let's get this up so you can actually see what's going on. That's why it's so much better to have two screens. Keep this way out of your way. But anyway, okay, here's the drum. It's nice that the momentum of the rumble down it seems to react to your eyes don't immediately see that we're moving forward. It first sees the distant horizon. And what I like about the point at which the low drum comes in is its tail helps us along with that motion. Actually, what I found out was it was actually my poor EQing that had created the ugliness. So just a couple of little notches out there before really brightening and sparkling up the top end. So here's without. And with. A little bit digitally, but in the context of what's going on, it has its part. I also wanted to. There's a passing note in this wind part here. Just it's kind of slightly lost, so I drew that out with a combination of a piccolo, with loads and loads of decay on it, and a cello. Piccolo's a bit late. Let's hear it with the band. Great. Now, next section is our busy bit. So what I did first is, this is my new favourite thing to do, is under the big kind of Hans Zimmer-y sounding drums, I added an 808. And then with subliminal under bass there, which I really love, just with one of these. Just a bit more kick and a bit more sustain at the actual pitch of the piece. And then what I did was I got my Ultra Kick, which I believe I made from the Ultra drum programming on Logic. Let's just have a listen to that. Just a little bit of extra sauce on. Now, I programmed in this together, but wanted to treat the accent to the Ultra Kick slightly differently. So what I've done there is just, I've actually switched that filter off, but I've just tuned it down, actually. So this is the pattern. And then, because the Ultra Kick goes really quickly, I thought what I'd do is put another 808 up there, but I did something interesting with it. First of all, took it from here to here. Okay, it's not giving us much there, so I want us to sustain that kind of long low note for as long as possible. So I've got some distortion, but it's got the low pass filter turned way down. It really comes out, and then just giving it a bit of that stuff at the actual pitch for good measure. However, by stacking all of these very bassy and snappy kick drums together, I actually started pushing Logic beyond what was reasonable, and it started distorting on me. So I've outputted all of the drums, all of the rhythmic stuff into bus 3, and then I had to do something interesting. Let's check this out. If I just run, it's going to be so loud. Okay, the problem with what's coming in, even at the threshold of 0 and a ratio of nothing, with what's coming in, it's so loud, it is still squashing it. So what I did is I introduced what I call a pad, basically, which is just reduces the gain of what's going into the compressor by minus 70. It was a real fiddly thing. Minus 17, and then if you look at the compressor here, I've had to really make up the gain. Great stuff. And then just a little bit of top end, the other end. You know, compressors do weird stuff to some of the frequencies. So let's have a listen to how that all sounds. I reinforced the drums for the last shot of New York, but I also made this with Alexis and Joe for Zubo ages ago. These SH101 booms. The reason why these drops work so well is, regardless of the room you're in, at some point that sweep is going to hit the standing wave of your room. That's the point at which all your windows rattle, or your speakers, or your metal library shelves. Regardless of which room, if you're in a cinema or if you're in a small room, there's going to be a point at some point where that sweep is going to go boom. And that's why you hear them on so many trailers, because wherever you are, you're going to get that window shake, which is the reason we do what we do as composers, is to shake windows. Finally got the orchestra at the end, which I just altered the way in which I'd done the... so you can see I've really kind of pushing it to the limit there, the way I've done the different expressions. And to make it sound bigger, funny enough, I actually doubled up the part that I'd had in the symphonic strings with the ensembles, playing octaves, with the actual chamber strings playing the normal. I find there's a lot more gravel in the chamber strings than in the symphonics, which are really, quite silky sounding. Let's just have a listen to it without the chambers. And then with. Feel the friction a lot more. And then I added a piccolo part, a cello part, and also these two legato lines in the French horn. And I did put a drum on the very end. And that's it, that extra 1%. Be interested to know how much you feel that emotionally affects you. I'd love to do more of these workshops. And as always with the vlog, any ideas you have, any bits of advice, any tutorials you'd like to have from me, just put them in the comments. I try and read most of the comments. They come up on my phone, this, that, and the other, because for me, they're like gold dust when someone comes up with a great idea that we can share with the community. Right. Before we go off to London for the launch of this, let's run this down, see what you think. Great. Off to the airport, please. Right, It's an early one today, which is why I'm flying down. Could have got the train or plane down last night, but I've been spending far too much time away from the family. It's school holidays at the moment, which is always tougher as a parent. Anyway, it's just after 4 security, and then I've got prep to do for the announcement. Someone raised a very interesting point, actually in the comments down below, on my previous vlog, which was the number of libraries that we seem to be releasing and how maybe the excitement of a Spitfire release has waned now because there are so many libraries being released. It's a very interesting and in certain respects valid point, but we have been releasing on average about 10 products a year for, I would say, at least 3 or 4 years now. Because some of them were modular, it probably didn't appear that we were trying to reinvent the wheel every month. And I know what you mean about the kind of the excitement and stuff. There's always going to be the big marquee products. This is a real biggie today. And then there's just going to be us creating this catalogue for composers. The way I responded to this comment was, you know, you don't go into a record shop and go, I must have every one of these records. One of the real motivators for Paul and I, you know, 12 years ago nearly, with Spitfire, was that everyone was using the same tools and inevitably doing similar stuff with them. So it's with great pride that we have well over 70 products now, and when we go out in the field we meet people who are, you know, will grab everything that we've done with Olafur, who are big fans of our symphonic ranges. There are people who are really, you know, massive fans of the stuff that we've done with Hands, and there's simply amazing collaborations to come up. For me, it's all about nuance. You know, there are people who love using our virtual instruments, the obedient and detailed lines we have, and there are some of us who prefer character libraries because they're quick and easy and make us think differently about how we create music, and there's a people who use a mixture. There's one guy I met in Japan, I said, what's your favourite Spitfire product? And he went, steel drums. And I was like, you know, brilliant, that's exactly the kind of answer I want to hear, because I really want to hear what he's doing in Japan with steel drums. You see, I'd love there to be a time when we reflect on, you know, who we used to buy our sounds from in the past, and again, it's really weird, we used to buy them from developers, not from artists, not from musicians, not from composers, because it's part of what we do and we should monetize that. So for me, creating a fluid market in sampling where there's choice, where we're not all working on the same tools, where there's a continued flow of inspiration and different ideas, not only about sound, but about the way that we use sound, the way that we orchestrate, not to mention the zeitgeist. We're part of a continuum that is evolving. Our first commercial success was Albion, when it was all about kind of hybrid scores and ostinatos and that kind of stuff. And then, you know, we developed these ways of instructing musicians to play these flautando techniques that really took off, the Evo grids, and then, you know, there was the movement of the Danish kind of noir, Scandi noir, Icelandic stuff that was coming in, and I'm looking forward to the next kind of shift in the zeitgeist. And by releasing stuff regularly, it keeps our business fluid and the choice broad, diverse and interesting. You know, the thing I have to remind people is there are 6 million of these YouTube channels out there. The points of sale for music are absolutely immense, and I hope the composing sorority and fraternity can embrace this opportunity, but by God, do we need diversity. What a great day. Thanks. No chance of me improving upon my well, I say suntan, sunburn here. So much brighter up in Scotland. All right, so it's rehearsal time. Hello. Hello. It's a full house here today, isn't it? How are you all doing? Excellent.
How are you?
A bit stressed. I always find it really depressing when I arrive at King's Cross Station 15 minutes by plane, coming across from London City 15 minutes after I would have arrived had I got the train down. And the train I could have got out of bed an hour and a half later this morning. So we've decided not to have a beer on this one, Paul, have we?
That's correct.
Yes, okay. So
Doing it dry.
Doing it dry. Okay. How many more minutes do we have till we're live?
10.
Okay.
Can sense the anticipation.
So how's that, Paul?
Yes. That's great.
Yes.
Really good fun. I kind of feel still a bit sizzly.
I always like it when it ends. Right, pub anyone? I'm sneaking off because they're all playing ping pong upstairs. A few pints at the pub. Didn't want to invade people's privacy by vlogging, but thanks for all the amazing comments on YouTube and stuff for those of you who watched. And jeepers, what an absolutely exhausting day. Started in Edinburgh, we'll end up in the Dorset Square Hotel tonight. Thanks, as always, for your continued support. If you haven't subscribed yet, there's loads of behind-the-scenes kind of insights into how we do things here. Ding that bell if you want to be notified the next time I put a video up. And one of these for the team who has put that together. Very, very proud. A lovely day. The adrenaline is kind of draining away, and I'm going to collapse in a heap in my hotel room very shortly.